Okay, just getting my Facebook set up for my live video. All right, looks like we have that. And now I'm just waiting for people to join. Hello. All right. Comment so I can see who's here. All right, I'm gonna wait just a few more minutes to see who else jumps on. Hi, Becca. Hi, Mom. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. It looks like both the Instagram and the Facebook feed is running. I'm super excited because my book is now live. Rise of the Dragon Queen is available wherever you can get your books. So Amazon and Kobo, BarnesandNoble.com, and I'm really excited that it's out now. This is my first book. It's been a long time that I've been working on writing it, so I'm really happy that I was able to actually get it out for everyone to enjoy. And yeah, so it's really exciting that it's out now, and it looks like a lot of people are really enjoying it. On Goodreads, it has about a 4.5-star rating with the preliminary, my advanced readers. So that makes me really happy that people are responding well to the book. So those of you who haven't read it or don't really know what it's about, this book is called The Rise of the Dragon Queen. It's set in an alternative realm on a planet called Ethoda. This world developed life that we would kind of consider fantastical, so more like dragons, and there's griffins, and then there's some new creatures that developed on this planet. The main population is called the Elvateth, and it has enhanced senses and some ability to control the elements. We would kind of think of these as elves with like the pointed ears and the enhanced eyesight. And in this story, these older creatures have vanished. So the dragons are basically going extinct. Some of the newer the creatures that developed on this earth, called the Hakatais and the Grumpuses, they've completely vanished. And the country of Dragonia, where the main characters live, is being ruled by a tyrant, and the magic users are being persecuted. So they have to hide their magic. So a resistance is formed to fight against the king. When her sister is kidnapped, Jenica embarks on a journey to save her, and she must align with unlikely allies to bring her sister home. But as she and her sister are gone, an ancient threat arises to take over their weakened country, because her sister is the crown princess and the heir to the throne. So that's kind of what the book is about. Just an overview. Obviously, I don't want to give away any spoilers. So I'm going to be answering some questions. I have some prepared, and if you have any questions, ask them below, and I'll try to jump in and see what you have commented so that I can answer the questions you have as I talk. So one of the questions that I was asked beforehand is, why did I write this book? So I started out writing this book a long time ago, and I mostly wrote because I needed something to kind of relieve my stress. I'm a pretty anxious person, and so writing just kind of helps me calm down and gets my thoughts kind of arranged in a way that I can deal with them. And so I would write these stories to kind of help organize my thoughts, and just for fun. And so I wrote this book. It kind of started out as that, and then I let my husband, it was my boyfriend at the time, read it, and he was like, "You should actually, try to do something with this. Like, it's really good." And I was just like, "Oh no." And then eventually, I listened to him and wrote the story that it is today. So another thing is, where did you get this idea? So this is where it takes it a long ways back. So the story idea has actually been bobbing around in my head for a really long time. Way back when I was a young elementary school kid of like 10 years old, I would play recess games with my two best friends in the entire world during recess. And we would play like we were elves, and we had elemental powers where we could control water and ice and electricity and fire and all of this. And we would run around our jungle gym, and we had this weird little flower pot creature called Grumpuses, and they had to save this princess from that was trapped inside this pear tree that was in our playground. And so some of the ideas kind of came from the fact that we played these games with these elemental creatures or powers and everything like that. And then when I went to middle school, we had to create we had this project where we had to create our own country. And that's where the country of Dragonia was originally kind of thought of. So I had to create our own country. And so I thought of like, oh, I want this country that has dragons, and I want it to be like super cool. And so I had to draw like this map. And so that's kind of where like the layout, the very, very basic layout of all of this came from, was like my 5th grade playground games and this country project. And back then, I wrote like this 12-page story, which I called Adventure of the Elves, and it was really bad. And all it was just kind of like the main character of the story. Her name was Jenica, and her sister got kidnapped. And Jenica went and got her sister and brought her home. And that was about all there was. And the way that they got home was they flew on the back of a dragon. And that was basically all the story was. And so I kind of just let that, was like, it was a fun story, like whatever. And then when I was in high school, we had to, it was like a poetry project where my sophomore teacher, Mr. Denton, had us create like our own holiday or something. And he wanted us to develop like, why is this holiday important and anything. So then I kind of like went back and was thinking like, oh, well, I created this country like a long time ago. Like maybe I could create a holiday for this country. So then I went back and started thinking about this country I created a long time ago, and added more to it, added more depth to the world, and kind of wrote a little bit more. And I added more to the story, and wrote an actual like basis to the story, kind of a framework to this book, and I called it The King's Daughters. And then I kind of left it again, and it was just like, it's whatever. And then finally, after I was in college, I started working on it again, and that's finally when it became what it is today. When I was in college and stressed out about like, am I going to pass physics? Am I going to pass calculus? And so I wrote this to deal with all of that stress. And that's kind of where the book came from. So yeah. So another question I have is, how did you come up with your characters? So the characters like Jenica and Samaria, the two main female characters, I would say that Samaria is based off of my older sister. So yay, Carlin. A lot of her traits I took from her, like her stubbornness and her like very close family ties. I took like those ideas from her sister, and also her physical appearance is kind of based on my sister because she's blonde and tall and pretty. So that's all based on my older sister. For Jenica, it's kind of a combination of things. Originally, it probably was a lot of like a self-insert, but then over time I was like, these are how I think like a really strong female character should be, because you know the strong female characters are important for young girls as they're reading books. So that's kind of how those two characters came up with. And then for like the creatures, I've always, dragons just kind of have the basic dragons, though they are more like, they look more like wyverns because I am a scientist, and biologically it makes more sense for them to be wyverns because there are no physical pressures that would make you have 6 limbs that are both limbs and wings. So they would technically be a little bit more of a wyverns, but they call them dragons in my book. And then for the creatures, the grumpuses, I kind of mentioned that already. That came from my friend back when we were in elementary school. We were doing a May Day project. So like May Day, where you do the flower baskets. We were making little flower baskets out of construction paper. And one of my friends was just kind of messing around, and he made his little flower basket have like eyes and arms on it. And then he was saying like it was his little earth creature, and we called them grumpuses. And so then we had them in our games after that. And so that's what kind of where the grumpus creature came from. The Hawketies, which appear later in the book, that kind of came out of the idea of like I wanted a griffin character, but I really liked wolves. So I kind of combined griffins and wolves together, and I just wanted them to be kind of cool and mysterious, and that's kind of how I came up with that character. So if you guys have any questions, just be sure to like jump in and write it, and I'll be sure to answer it if I see it. Just keep going with some of the other questions. I've been asked before who was my favorite character to write and why. I really like the Grumpus character that shows up in the book. Her name is Grumrose. My husband Dylan said that she's a lot like my younger sister, Kinley. I didn't actually notice that until we were doing final edits, that she does remind me a lot of my little sister. She's kind of snarky, a little silly, likes to get into trouble. And so she's really fun because you're kind of just like, oh, what's she going to do next? So that's a lot of fun. The other character I really like, and I mean, I love my main characters, but these are like side characters that I like, is a character called Anahi. And she, even the name Anahi means like the immortal, the immaculate. And so her character is really cool because she just shows up in the world, and she has something happen to her a long time ago that made her immortal. And so she's been around for like over 3,000 years, and she just kind of shows up, and she has like this knowledge of the world, but she's still kind of really like innocent. Like she's just like been around, but a lot of things still can surprise her. And I think that's really cool. So another question I have is, who are some of your writing influences? So this is a really big question because I love to read. Like I saw something on Twitter the other day that said like, read like you're being bullied in middle school and you just have to spend all your time in the library to avoid the world. And I was like, yeah, that's accurate to me. But so I read a lot when I was in middle school and high school. So I have a lot of influence, I think. But one of the big ones is Tamora Pierce with her Tortall world. I really liked her Circle of Magic books. If you guys have read that, she has that series where there's like 4 main characters, and they each have their own like strange magic. Like there's sewing magic, and there's like forge magic and plant magic, and then like weather magic, and then they like bond together because they were all like young when they found these things, and no one really knows what to do with them. And then she has her Alana the Lioness series, which was really popular. I think it came out in like the late 80s. And it's about like the first female knight in the world. And then she also has the one that I really, really liked was about a girl named Dane, and she had wild magic, and so she could like shift and shapeshift into other animals and talk to animals. And I thought that was great because if I could choose a power to have, I would totally choose talking to animals. I think that would be great. And I would very much want to talk to my dog because Willow is like my best friend. She's great. Oh, I'm sideways. Is that better? Okay. Did I fix it? Okay. I hope I did. Apparently I was sideways on Instagram. So that was one of my big writing influences because I literally read everything in our library that Tamora Pierce had. Another really big one was Mary Downing Hahn. And she was amazing. She writes ghost stories. So she wrote things like A Time for Andrew and Wait Till Helen Comes. So she does kind of more of a paranormal type thing. And I actually got to meet Mary Downing Hahn when I was a kid. And it was really kind of like a big moment for me because I got my book signed and everything. But one of my friends that I would play the games with in elementary school actually was just kind of like, oh, she likes to write books. And I was so mad at him because I was like really embarrassed. I was like, no, like she's amazing. She, oh, you didn't spell her name wrong. That's right. She's amazing. She totally is like the best author ever. I love her so much. And I was really embarrassed that he was like trying to out me to the fact that I was like to write books. And she was just like, oh no, that's great. Like, I can't wait to read your book someday. I think it's great. Just write your story. And I was just like, Mary Downing Hahn is my hero. And I thought it was amazing. And she's great. And her stories are fun, ghost stories. And yeah, so if you like paranormal ghost stories, they're fun. They are written for a little bit younger age, but I still like them. I see on Instagram, someone wants to know what my element would be. So my entire life, I always said that I would probably be water power. I was a swimmer for like on the swim team for like 12 years. I always really liked the water. So I would say that, though I did write that quiz and took it myself and it said air. So based on my quiz that I wrote, I'd have air power. So I guess take that as you will, but I've always said water power, kind of where I fell, thinking about that. Yeah. Some of my more recent influences in writing, I think, would be Brandon Sanderson. If you guys have read his books, he's the guy who finished up the Wheel of Time series for Robert Jordan after Robert Jordan died. And I really like his Mistborn series, which also has Brandon Sanderson's great. He is great at doing magic things, and everyone talks about his rules of magic, where you have the very hard, or they call it the hard magic versus soft magic, and use Sanderson's rules for it. And basically, the difference between hard and soft is that the hard, you kind of know what the magic's going to do. Like you can say, oh, with the water power, they can only do the water. They can only manipulate water. They can make it into ice, probably turn it into gas. That's it. They can't suddenly control fire out of nowhere. If it's more of a soft magic, then you can kind of be like, more like Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, where he could kind of just, we need him to do this, and he can just kind of do it. Yeah. I also like water power, and that's why I gave Jenica it, because yeah, I like her a lot. And like I said earlier, she probably started out as a self-insert, and so I gave her water power because that's what I originally wanted to be. Was like the princess in this fairy tale land that I loved, and so I gave her water power and gave her brown hair. So for those of you who didn't see that on Instagram, someone said, I need to take the quiz. I also always said I would want water, probably why I love Jenica so much. So talk a little bit about my writing process. So I know that a lot of people talk about if they like to plot, if they like to just kind of write, if they're somewhere in between. So with a lot of times, I really I started out a lot as like, they call it a pantser, where I just kind of go what I fly by the seat of my pants. If one of the scene comes into my head, I just write it down. As I've started doing more with like the next couple books, I've started plotting a little bit more, especially with the third book. The second book, I was kind of like, okay, I know I want to start here and I want to end here, and this needs to happen to get there, but that's about it. And then like in between, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. This new character just popped up. Oh, that's cool. But with this third book, I was like, okay, so Maria needs to do this, this, and this, and Jenica needs to do this, this, and this. And very much plotted it out. But I really do like the free form kind of like as inspiration strikes way of doing it that I started. I have a question that says, what was it like getting to the head of the boys? So that was interesting at first, because when I originally started writing it, I just felt like they were like girls, but called guys. And so then I had to sit there and think about it for a long time to actually make sure they were doing like things that would be considered a little bit more, I would say, masculine, I guess. I don't want to really say it like that, but just to think about it as more not just sounding like a woman, I guess, if that makes sense. So I had to sit there and think about it, and as I that really helped after I went to college, because I got to the more I experienced, the more guys I was around, and I went to a college that had a lot of guys. It was an engineering college, so I was basically around a ton of guys all the time. So I definitely got to see a bunch of different perspectives and a bunch of different ways that people would react to things. And so then I could be like, okay, so if I was writing this scene, how would my friend react to it? And so sitting there and thinking about like my really good guy friends, like how would they react if this happened to them? And that's kind of how I got into the mindset of the boys, was just kind of being like, okay, how would Dylan react to this, my husband, or how would my friend Aaron react to this if this happened to him, type of thing. And so I would just sit there and try to like think out logically how my friends would react to it. So that's kind of how I got in the heads of the guys. Whether so I hope that was successful. Some of the other things that I did to get into for the writing process was I drew myself maps. unfortunately, for like the printing of the book, the maps weren't high enough quality that they passed the bar for the printers to actually print it out. But I do have them up on my website, and I do have them on my Instagram, and I believe it's up on Twitter too, but it is on my website. I really wanted to get them into the book, but I couldn't. I didn't have them as a high enough quality, so that's something in the future that I hope to get out. But I do have. I did like drawing all the maps out to know, like, this is what the world looks like. This is what this country looks like. These are the mountains. These are the valleys. This is what they're all named, even if you're never going to run into those places. And I would like draw out the characters, even though I'm a really bad drawer. I would draw out the characters just for myself. I like to look at a bunch of like just fantasy art to be like, ooh, I really like that dress, or things like that, to see how things are going. And another thing that I did that it did end up including in the book was I would write out like terms or like traditions and things like that, because it always helps with world building, and I'm a total nerd when it comes to world building. And that's included in the back book. There's a guide, the last, I don't know, 20 pages of the book is like a guide to the world. And so one of the things I really liked doing was coming up with like festivals and what do they think of this? What are like the main exports for this country? And these are all things that you can find out about. So that's was something that I did as part of my writing process, and it really helped because. And then going on to the next book, I have the stuff figured out, so I don't have to think about it. Another thing I felt helpful with was I do have the draft of the second book completed, and so writing the second book as I was finishing up the first book was really helpful, because there are things that have to happen in the second book where I was like, well, that doesn't work with what I said in the first book, but I need it to fit. So I was able to go back and make sure everything fit. So that's always nice that I was still kind of in the writing process for both of those. So one of the things is, why did I self-publish? So one of the reasons I decided to self-publish was because I really just wanted to get the story out there. I didn't really care so much about it being one of the big four, big five companies from New York. And I just really wanted I've been writing this story. It was something that I wanted done, and I always wanted to publish this book, publish the story, get it, like I said, get it out there. So I just decided that after talking with my husband and everything, it was something that I could do. So I did a lot of research on how to self-publish. There's self-published authors. Watched a lot of videos. I watched a lot of Jenna Morassi on YouTube. If you guys watch her, she is quite a character. Really, she curses a lot, but she's funny. And looked at a lot of different things to see if I could do it. And so then I realized it was possible. And then I did a lot of research because, as I said, I'm a scientist, so I did a lot of research on how to do it and make sure that we could get done with it. And so I learned how to like format the book and publish the book and what I needed for it. And so then I did it. So one of the things was, how did I self-publish? So it can be quite a process. You kind of have to take a lot of it on yourself. So that's the big thing about not going through a traditional publisher, is that you have to take all of the work onto yourself. And so I didn't, like I said, I did a lot of research. I didn't really know where to start. So I started with editing. I sent it out to beta readers on the internet. I found a couple different sites on like Facebook and Goodreads, and just to see if anyone was even interested in reading a story like this or if it would be any good. And so I had them read it, and I got some good feedback. And then I sent it to some people I know who are good at editing, because I didn't want to put a ton of money into it right away, because I was like, I don't know how this is going to go. So I had some people I know edit it. And then I had to look for like a cover designer. And so the cover that I got, which is amazing and beautiful, and Marta Deck is my cover designer, and that was actually a pre-made cover that I found, because pre-made covers are actually a little bit less than getting one custom made. So I just looked at there's a site, I just typed in like premadebookcovers.com or whatever, it was something like that, and looked through it, and I found that cover. I was like, I want a cover with a dragon on it. It's like, that's what I want. And I kept looking through it, and then I found that cover, and it's amazing, and I'm going to use her for everything now because I love her. And she's so easy to work with. And then I had to get an ISBN number. And that was probably one of the most stressful things for me, because a lot of people were saying, like, just buy the ISBN number. You can publish through KDP and buy an ISBN number through them. But I actually published through Ingram Spark, where you can get all of the books published, or your book and your ebook published through all the major distributors like Amazon and Kobo. And that's why you can buy it on like Barnes and Noble and everything like that, and also have the print book and all of those places. If you publish through Kindle Direct, you can only have it on Amazon, and I didn't want it just on Amazon. And so you had to buy your own ISBN number, and you can only buy them in like blocks of 10, which got kind of expensive right up front. And yeah, so that was probably the most stressful part for me. But I got my ISBN, I got my my cover, and then I had to figure out how to format the inside. And so I watched a lot of YouTube videos for that, but I ended up being able to figure out how to format the inside myself. And I think it turned out pretty great. I did stay up a lot of weekends just being like, why isn't this working? But I figured it out, and that was great. So that's how I self-published it. And then you just upload it to Ingram Spark website, and then they take care of the rest of it. So I don't actually have to worry about the printing of the book or anything. So that's nice. Right. So getting involved with the writing community has been a big thing for me. And I think that was really great once I started realizing I actually was going to publish this book and was going to do it self-publishing. And so one of the big things that I felt was important, I see a question that says, do you recommend self-publishing? I've liked it so far. I think it's been really nice because I have a lot of control over things. I can say, like, yes, I want this as my cover. I don't have to worry about like meeting with all of these people who have all this input on my book. I can actually tell the story that I want to be told. So I would recommend self-publishing. It does take a lot up front, but there are ways to get around it. Like I said, like, I didn't pay for a professional editor. I knew people who were good at editing. I knew people who were good at writing. And so I just sent it to them at first. And I sent it to beta readers to get their input for that one. Maybe down the road in the future, I might pay for an editor, but so far I haven't. And my husband thinks that we caught most of the mistakes, so I hope that's true. Also, another thing is that you do get a little bit, I believe, a little bit better return on your books when you self-publish. And so like with like Ingram Spark, you get a little bit better return per book. And then if you like purchase the book and sell it, like if you go to a fair or you're an event at a library or something like that, you get like 100% return on it because it's just a book you have and you can sell it for $18 and it costs $6 to print it, then you get all of that's profit. So that's nice. And you do have a lot of control over saying like, this is the story I want to tell. There's no one saying cut out that chapter, or you want it to be a one-off and they're like, now it has to be a series. You kind of have control over all of that. And that's been really nice to just kind of be like, this is the story I want to tell. So this is it. So I like that. Yeah. So yeah, I would say that getting involved in the writing community has been a big thing for me. Beforehand, I was like, I was just kind of like doing it to myself and not wanting to talk to anyone about my works and not really being involved with anything. And then I made myself an Instagram account and joined some groups on Facebook and started getting involved with different things and seeing other things that people have been writing. And it's been really good, I think. I've connected with a lot of different writers. And it's made me feel more connected with people, and I'm able to get help if I'm stuck on something. I have a question that says, does it feel stressful being self-published and having essentially sell your book on your own? That it can be sometimes, but I haven't felt super stressed about having to sell the book on my own. Because I've been doing a lot of the things that I've done have just been like posting things on my social media. There's a lot of things that you can do to sell your book without having to put any money into it. Some of the things that I've found are just putting out, just joining the writer community, talking to other writers, having an authors page on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, using free software anywhere you can. I've used and abused free accounts on BookBrush. Don't tell them. So that I can download their like the free 15 things, because it costs like $99 to get their cheapest of actual paid subscription. And I haven't wanted to do that yet. I use Canva to make like a lot of my ads, and Canva is super easy to use. And you can make really nice, like quality looking ads with it. So I wouldn't say it's been super stressful because you can get a lot of it done for free and with word of mouth, just getting out like telling your friends like, hey, I'm writing a book, you should buy it. And then they're super nice and will buy your book because they like you. Thanks, guys. To get it out to other people who don't really know you, yeah, joining the writer community I think was really big for me because I didn't know how I was really going to do that. And like joining or like seeing other people stealing ideas from other authors is the best form of flattery, right? And doing things like that to get it out there and just pushing it, I think has been it's been fine. It can be a little bit stressful at times because you're like, is this going to actually do something? And I think everyone has that little bit of stress. But overall, I wouldn't say it's more stress than anything else that I've done. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I think I have a message from someone. Oh. I'm seeing a lot of messages that I did not see before. Sorry, Facebook people. Someone wants to know if there's going to be more books. She said, I know you've been writing forever. Yes, there are going to be more books. That's the plan, at least. This series, The Legends of Ethoda, I'm planning on it being 4 books. I'm planning on it being so 3 books in like the main storyline, and then having the 4th book be kind of like a prequel, being an ancestor to the main 2 characters, and kind of explaining an event that you kind of find out about later. I don't want to like give it away, so I know it's very vague, but it explains more about the magic of the system in the prequel and kind of how the magic came to be the way it was. So that's what I want. That's what I'm planning for this series. I also have another book written that needs to do rewrites. I had some beta readers read it, and there's some rewrites that need to be done. And it's I've been calling it a historical fantasy romance. I was told by others that it's kind of like a flipped Beauty and the Beast, where the beast is the girl. And so it's set in Russia, well, England and Russia at different points in the book. And during the 1830-ish time period. And there is a girl who was cursed by a witch when she was young, but the curse went wrong, and now the witch has to keep her close to complete the transformation, because the curse was supposed to transform the witch's daughter into this girl, and they were supposed to basically swap places, but it goes wrong, and so she needs the girl around to make sure that transformation stays active. So those are the things I'm working on right now. I have the 2nd book in edits right now. My husband's being amazing and reading it through the first time for me, so that like there's no like glaring plot holes before I send it out to people. And then that one I'm going to do the rewrites for, and then hopefully do the edits. And I want to get those out eventually, maybe about this time next year. That'd be great, but no promises. So that, yeah. I see another question that says, do you like writing silly characters or the more heroic ones? Well, it depends on the time. I really like the silly characters because you never know what they're going to do. They're just like always being goofy. Like when I write the silly scenes, I'm literally like giggling to myself. Like in one of the scenes at the beginning of The Rise of the Dragon Queen, the 2 main characters, the sisters, they play a trick. And like as I'm writing out the scene, I'm just like giggling to myself. And I had a lot of fun writing that, and so I thought that was great. But I also do like those like traditionally heroic characters who are just like in the traditionally heroic scenes. I think those are great, and I'm always just like, that's great, because I like watching that, and I think it's a lot of fun too, and like it really helps. Like, you know, who doesn't love a good traditional hero? So I like that too. Someone asked, being a native Kansan, I grew up in Kansas for those of you who didn't know, will you write anything set here and take more characteristics from folks you grew up with? That is possible. I haven't, on the things that I have started, I don't really have anything set in Kansas, but I've always had like little short stories and stuff being like, oh, this was set in Kansas, like grew up in the Midwest type thing. I did have, well, I have it. I haven't written it for a while, but I have a few scenes of a more sci-fi book that I wrote a little bit, a short story of in high school. That's all based on like genetics and the Genome Project and things like that, where one of the main characters was set in a fictional small town in Kansas. But I haven't really worked on that in a long time. I just have that short story and an idea for more, but I haven't really worked on it for a while because I was working on my fantasy series. So eventually I might get back to that. I hopefully would get back to it since I have some ideas for that. But I guess we'll see. I mean, I like the Midwest. I like Kansas. I grew up there. Let's see. Ooh, science. Yeah, I missed a lot of these questions and comments. Sorry, guys. Okay, sorry. I was just looking through, make sure I didn't miss anything. Do you guys have any more questions that I could answer for you? Hello. So another question that I have was I started on writing a book. So one of the things that I do is I wait, like when I get an idea, is I will write the 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 idea, the scene that I have in my head down. So like recently, I wrote down like maybe, I don't know, 10, 12 pages of a story idea that I had. It was kind of, I had just read the book. I think it's called Artemis. It's the same guy who wrote the Martian book. It's his other one. It's about being on the moon. And so after that, I had a lot of like planetary sci-fi ideas. And so I wrote down a couple pages, maybe like a chapter or so, of that idea, and then I just kind of let it sit because it's like I had the big scene, like the scene that I started out with, but I didn't really have anything else, and I still don't really have a plot to go with it. I just had like this opening scene that I was like, oh, it's so cool, like they're on this planet and they're like hunting for this, they're going and getting this food and they're like flying off the cliff with like these like trapeze thing, or not trapeze, like these zip lines. It's so cool, but I don't know where to go from there. It doesn't go anywhere. But eventually I'll probably come back and think of something. So if I think of ideas to go with that story, to go with that plot, I'll write it down in a notebook. And I am a big proponent of using notebooks. I carry them like everywhere. And I fill them up with all of my ideas and scribbles and crossouts and everything like that, to try to get the stories down. I like them if they can fit in my purse because then they're easier to carry. I have a question that says, what do you do if you get writer's block or don't feel motivated? Yes. One of the things I do to help myself get back in the mood for writing is I have playlists for each of my books or works as I'm working on them. And I put out the one for The Rise of Dragon Queen that I would like listen to get kind of in my head for writing the book. So like I'll think of songs that are like, yes, this is the one that gets me in the head for my villain, or this is the one that's like, oh, this scene really reminds me of like the love story between these two characters, or I just really like this song and for some reason it reminds me of this book type songs. And so I'll listen to the playlist, I'll put it on and just sit there and think about it. Another thing that'll get me try to get me back into being motivated is I will look up I don't know, go on Pinterest and see if there's and type in like writer prompts and see if there's anything that like sparks my interest. Because they'll just have like 2 words or 3 words on some of the things that you can find on Pinterest. And then I'll see if that helps at all. If I'm really stuck and really annoyed with my computer, I'll just close out. My husband and I really like to play board games. I'm sure that some of you are shocked. And we'll play board games. I'll do something else to like just take my mind off of it. And I can sit like that for days, just trying to avoid the little blinking line on the computer screen. But I mean, some people will say like, oh, you should definitely always try to write every day. But I do feel like it's sometimes cyclical. Like you're like really motivated sometimes. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna get this all down. I'm gonna do it. And then other times I'm just like, no. Some other things that I do, and I've saw this, and I thought it was pretty good advice, is like if I get stuck in a certain spot, but I know that what's gonna happen afterwards, I'll just like highlight it in like little brackets and be like, they escape. Like, I don't know how they escape yet, but they escape. And then I'll go on to like what happens after they escape. Because I know that they escape and I know where they have to go after that. But it's like that one scene is bugging me and I don't know how to do it. So I'll just go on. I write out of order all the time. And I know that probably bothers some people, but I just like quilt it together. So yeah, that's what I do when I'm not feeling motivated or if I'm getting blocked by something. Yeah. My sister said since childhood, yeah, I have totally been carrying around notebooks since I was a kid. Like it was pretty much always a like stocking gift, birthday gift. I got some pretty fancy notebooks. And then I would get the fancy notebooks and then I wouldn't want to write in them because I didn't think anything that I wrote was good enough for the notebook. So I had that cycle too. So, you know, you just got to hoard the notebooks, keep them all in. Just got to get all of them together. It's really great. And then you get a fancy pen to write in the notebook. And so then you're just fancy. Yeah, so that's what I do if I'm stuck. And to get started, I'll write down the scene and then try to figure things out later. So sometimes I'll just have something sitting for a long time, just being like with a question mark title, just being like the project of the name. Another thing I do to get started is I will make a list of like if I'm traveling or something and I see like a name on a street sign or on a building or just hear something and I'm like, ooh, that's really good. I really like that. I have a list on my phone of just like names that I really like. So near where my sister lives, there is like an exit for the road Asaria Fallon. And I just like loved that. And so, and that the story that I was talking about, like that I just had the scene where like they're like jumping off the cliff. Like my main character is now named Asaria Fallon because I was like, that is really cool. It's a road near Wichita. Doesn't really, that's where I got it. But sometimes I'll do it like that too. So my mom wants to know if I still hoard notebooks. Yes. So that, yeah. Sorry. I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear. Yeah, so when I actually do sit down to write it, I will also create like an Excel sheet or a PowerPoint of all my characters to be like, this is Jenica. She's 17 years old. She has brown hair, blue eyes. She has water power. She likes to read. She likes to play tricks. She likes to do all of these things. Also just kind of like relative things to her height, like things that, I mean, I'm not going to put in the book like she's 5'5" or something like that, but I will be like, she's shorter, so like she's going to be shorter than the male character, or she's going to be taller than her sister or something like that. So that I know these things, so that when I'm looking at it later and being like, oh, okay, that needs to go there. Or I'll have like in the Excel sheet, if I need to keep track of things like dates, events, so that I'm not like, this happened in 1995, and then later in the book I'm like, this happened in 2002, and you're like, wait, what? So those are all some things that I do to get started, so that I'm not getting confused, so that you're not confused later. So yeah. Oh, yeah. My mom also pointed out that I make a lot of mood boards. That's something new that I kind of started. I mean, I guess the mood boards have started being popular on social media, but I will put those out there to be like, okay, so like, here are some things that, like, these are the themes for this character, and this is the theme or the mood that inspires this character. Someone wants to know, did I mostly write on a laptop, pen and paper, or a combination? Definitely a combination. So, like I said, I like to carry around the notebook just in case I get inspired somewhere. But I do also get a sense of pride filling up a notebook. So I will write in the notebook a lot. But then every time, I obviously type it back up onto the computer eventually. But there are times when I'm just sitting on the computer and I will just type it while I'm working on it. The notebook was pretty, I would say that there's a lot of things that I did end up writing the notebook because like I would have the notebook with me like when I was not paying attention in class, or don't tell my mom, or like doing other things, like waiting in the waiting room for the doctor or something like that. So I would just write it as I was there. But then later I would obviously type it up on the computer. So yeah, I would say it's definitely a combination. And now I use the computer more often than I do the pen and paper, but I still do like the pen and paper and still get an insane amount of pride of filling up a notebook. It's kind of ridiculous. All right. Does anyone have any more questions? All right. Well, thank you guys all for joining me tonight. I'm super excited for the book to be out. So yeah, if you haven't, you can go and purchase it on Amazon and Kobo and Barnes and Noble. You can get both the print or the ebook or both. I hope that you guys get it soon and that you can all read it. And I'm super excited that it's out now for you guys to read. It's definitely a dream come true. So thank you guys for all being here. Oh, I do see one more question. It says, what types of scenes do you like writing? I definitely like writing the scenes that have good character interactions. So if they are like bickering or being silly, and you just see the growth of those characters together, those are the scenes that I really enjoy writing. So yeah, thanks for joining me.